Hello, hello, and good morning. It's Joan Gregerson here, and I'm so happy to be with you for another episode of Green Team Academy Podcast Live. And today I have my friend and a very special guest on, Beverly Grant, who is a local food hero. And we're going to get to talk with Beverly about this idea of what does resilience look like. And so I can't wait to introduce you to Beverly if you don't already know her and to get to dive into that. But before we do that, I want to just fill you in on a couple things that are going on. First is the Earth Week Summit was so much fun. And we had so many people and organizations that had events and got together. And so if you want to get in on those recordings so that you have them for the long term, maybe you want to share them with your team or use those ideas, the interviews that we had with Mike Nelson or Shayna Oliver or Sarita Parikh or any of the interviews from 2020 or 2019, that you can get all of that stuff. And we now have a monthly price that you can jump in there. So it makes it easier to manage. So if you want to do that, then definitely do that. That's at earthweeksummit.com. The other thing I want to tell you about is that we are doing a virtual paint and sip. So Green Team Academy is getting spun off. It was a project that I started under my LLC, and we're spinning it off as a nonprofit so we can go bigger. And so our first fundraiser is on June 22nd, which is a virtual paint and sip. We're doing a bicycle basket paint and sip. And I think it's going to be really fun. And we have options here for if you want to pick those supplies up if you're in the Denver area. And if not, we're setting it up so that you can have them shipped to you. And we might do some other little pickup spots as well. So we're just figuring out those details. But anyhow, so I hope that you can join us. So let's see, Beverly, I'm not sure if you are ready to hop back on here with us. I'm going to go ahead and bring her up.
I am ready.
Hi, Beverly. How are you?
Man, I'm grateful to be with you, Joan. Every time there's a chance to connect with you, it's guaranteed to be fun and informative.
Well, I love this because, yeah, I had so much fun on your radio show on KGNU. So Beverly hosts the Metro on KGNU, and that's on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can check that out wherever you are, KGNU Radio. Let's see, Beverly, I think I'm getting some feedback. So maybe when I'm not talking, one of us, maybe you can mute your self,
Okay.
and then I'll unmute, and then I don't know, we'll figure it out. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, great. Awesome. All right. So I was starting to say in the intro that Beverly has done so much around all different layers of local food and resilience on a personal side with mental health and with teaching people about food and developing farmers markets and a farm and having bigger and bigger ideas of and getting people together. And it's just been she's been my inspiration for so much. So we're so happy to have you on today, Beverly. And yeah, do you want to give a quick intro of what brought you to this point where when we were talking today or earlier, we were saying like, what should we talk about? And you said, what does resilience look like? So do you want to start us off with your ideas about that?
Well, certainly. First of all, we got to think about that resilience is something that is living. And I look at right now in Denver, Colorado, overnight, we got a little spring snow, which when we hear that word snow this time of year, farmers kind of inhale with a little bit of franticness. But it wasn't a bad snow. But it's also a reminder of resilience because we are shifting from one season into the next. And, resilience is that intangible essence that lives in all living things. And we sometimes in the human sphere, we forget about our resilience because we rely on it so much. Every time we wake up at the top of the day, our resilience helped us to wake up and get going. And then the engine and the fuel that keeps us chugging along throughout our days, that has to do with our resilience as well. And it's that ability to bounce back, to thrive, to keep existing into the future. Now, when we talk about resilience in different categories or think about it in different contexts, um, lately there's a lot of talk about resilience within human organizations. And what does that look like? And how can that be fostered and facilitated? Well, first, we have to remember that when we're talking about it in that context, that resilience absolutely does not live in procedures and policies. It actually lives in the people because it takes people to carry those missions forward, to fulfill the strategies, the goals. That human element is needed. And for, let's say, an organizational resilience, that requires mission alignment. It requires um, building relationships with like-minded organizations, individuals, and then bringing these um, people and organizations together for a common good. Now, of course, one of my favorite contexts of resilience is in the land, being an urban farmer. And so we started seeds in the greenhouse, in at the end of February. And so now we're starting to get things in the ground, whether it be little seedlings or actual seed. And the moment you start to see the signs of life breaking the top of the soil, that's an exciting feeling. And it's also just showing the resilience of what's about to happen. And so, resilience is a subject that I think we need to have more conversations about because other beautiful words like vibrance, being invigorated are also words that are going to come up when we're having this conversation. Now, Joan, I think about the many missions that you have been instrumental in being a catalyst for around the globe. That's signs of resilience because people heard your call to action. They took it to heart and then they started looking around where they live and they felt that aha catalytic moment to say, I can be a change agent for this, that, or the other. Though they were springing from their own personal resilience to take that action. And you, my dear Joan, you are definitely one of the most vibrant, resilient creatures I know. That brain of yours is on nonstop thinking about what can we do more of? What can we do better? And what can I do to invite more people to join me around this particular thought or action. And so I think, Joan, that resilience is something that people don't think about in the context that, well, let's say not on a daily basis. They don't think about it like that. When really resilience is always in the background. It's the foundation. It's what carries us forward. It's like a track team where they're passing the baton. Resilience is not too dissimilar to that.
That's a lovely introduction to that. And I think the other thing that I didn't it's funny because a lot of times I think of resilience as there's something that happened and then you're bouncing back. But I like the interpretation, shining a light on it of kind of every day we're bouncing back, and like in springtime in particular, that it's also that burst of energy that's coming through. And one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, Beverly, too, is that I feel like you've got so many aspects of resilience that you bring to things, and in particular yoga, and the that this isn't something that we've really had a chance to talk too much about, but I know that you are that you look at doing trauma informed yoga and having, so that sitting on the mat resilience kind of thing. And some people may or may not already know about you, that you started farmers markets, and I put the link there into the Betta Green MarketPlace, that you started a farm and you have all this stuff that you've been building in communities for resilience. So how does I think people are might be surprised to know that you're also a yoga teacher and that you have that aspect. So how does that connect, and how is that important to that idea of resilience as a whole?
Well, Joan, thank you for bringing that up because um, you are right about thinking about resilience as something happens and then you bounce back. Yes, that's definitely a way of thinking about it, um, but but resilience is something that occurs on an ongoing basis because it's a living process. And when I think about yoga, yoga is definitely um, a practice that I tap into to strengthen my resilience. Um, and I had a very tragic thing happen to me in 2018 with the death of my youngest son. And I really needed a way to bounce back from that. I had to realize that for the rest of my life, I'm going to be dealing with sadness. And that's something, again, that I am always going to be ever bouncing back from. And so, using yoga as a framework, I am able to deal with the various layers of my being, my physical being, my emotional body, my spiritual body, and then thinking about my mental health. And what yoga did is provide a platform to deal with all those layers of my being and for me to unify those layers in a comfortable and gentle way. And it is kind of, yoga also makes me think of the seasons, meaning when I was at my worst. It was like a winter, because I was very detached from the world, um, and I felt very, disassociated from my life, and so in yoga helped me to ground, to feel safe in my body, to sort through my emotions, and to create a new context, if you will, for living and being present, and to do it in the most positive mindset possible. Because mindset also is at the heart of resilience, because our mindset is what drives our perceptions of things. And there's a word in yoga called sankalpa, Sankulpa, and it means a seed thought. And during the worst times of seeking to feel healed, um, I had this seed thought come to mind. I am resilient. I am grounded. I am complete. And so I share that thought with people in all of my yoga practices to help us remember that, first of all, we are resilient creatures, no matter what our state of mind is. And if we leverage the gifts of yoga, it will help us to be grounded. And then the statement, I am complete, is also a reminder that our divine designs are perfect, and our divine designs are exactly how we're born. And there weren't any mistakes made there in that divine design. And so as we grow and learn and age, you know, we have this realization, I am complete. And so I wanted you I take a moment to share that sankalpa every chance I get, Joan.
It's just such a beautiful way to encompass all of that. The I am resilient, I am grounded, I am complete. Wow. I know when I was doing a kind of yoga called Sahaj yoga, they had a kind of a mantra. I changed it a little bit, but I would say, I am not this body, I'm not this project, and I'm not this day. Because a lot of times you get so involved in the details of something that's going on, and to have a way to step back and remember that, whatever's happening today, that doesn't define you, and that you have this bigger place to come from. And I'm also
Indeed, indeed, Joan, and that is exactly the purpose of, the sankalpa that I shared with you. It's a daily reminder to each of us that, first and foremost, we can bounce back from anything, and that the tools live within our being. And we also forget that we are carriers of intergenerational wisdom. Every single relative we've ever had and never met, their beautiful legacy of wisdom lives within our DNA. And I love the way you framed what you said, Joan, because sometimes, as you put it, something can happen and we need a reminder that, hey, this is not me, this doesn't define me. And so that's why, having mantras or sankalpas can be helpful.
And I think that, with everything kind of like the yin yang of everything, it's really helpful to acknowledge both sides of it. So I think that seeing that multi-generational wisdom and also multi-generational trauma, and seeing those together, like I was thinking lately a lot about my parents, both as little kids. Their families were on farms. One was in Nebraska, my mom was in Nebraska, my dad was in Colorado, and both of their farms went under during the Depression, and their families lost everything. Um, and they ended up, you know, watching everything that they built all, auctioned off, and then trying to move somewhere else and make a living. And with my my grandpa was super sick at that time, and I maybe that was great grandpa. I'm getting the generations mixed up, but the interesting thing was that they were on land that was not resilient, land that had been degraded, and then they went through this kind of traumatic thing. And I think all their experiences with land and with money and with each other, that that all flows as well. So their wisdom is there. And what I think too now is that I feel like in my meditations I try to tap into more of that ancestral wisdom and healing, um, to that I call on them to help me, and realize that it's something that they dealt with, and they might have had a part in, they were kind of given it, and maybe also pass some of this stuff on, and that they're up there cheering for me to find ways to not, to heal that intergenerational stuff and kind of move past it. So there's intergenerational wisdom, but also maybe intergenerational trauma.
Well, there's no doubt that both exist, Joan, and, I love to help people remember that, yes, there is the trauma, but there is the wisdom, and the wisdom is necessary to help to deal with the trauma.
Yeah, and the practices. And I think that's where the practices of something like yoga come in, that is a way to accept what's, where you are right now, but also to tap into that kind of more spiritual understanding of life, and take that bigger perspective and see yourself surrounded by all these kind of helping forces that can help us move through all of this. And so, Beverly, for going forward, you've got so many beautiful things going on in the community. What's kind of your next realm that you want to focus on? What's kind of in the future for you? What do you see?
Well, one thing for sure, I'm working on what I'm calling my resilience plan currently to pass the work I've been doing on for 11 years to a slate of 5 younger people and just divide what I'm currently doing amongst them. And also in doing that, that's gonna strengthen the mission that I have started because now instead of just my brain, I've got 5 additional brains to help think about this, to come up with strategies that, I could never think of. And then I also want to free myself to do more things like, for example, this summer, I'm planning to create yoga in the park. I have 4 different neighborhood parks in mind to do this. And I also want to offer Tai Chi, which is actually one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And it's another gentle movement that is very wholesome to the body. It helps bring together all the layers. I tell people sometimes, Joan, that think of your being as an onion with all those different layers. And when we're dealing with our spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical layers of our being, we need to take a gentle yet deep approach to this. And so yoga, meditation, tai chi, walking, you'd be surprised. There are many things that we can do in our daily lives that create like a meditative practice. Cooking can even be like that, taking a bath, um, you know, just sitting in the sun for a few moments and taking off your shoes and letting your feet experience the grass or whatever you're surrounded, sticking them in a little brook that may be nearby. These are all ways that we want to calm and soothe our bodies and quiet our minds. And then that leads to this beautiful amalgamation of bringing all of those layers together in a harmonizing way. Now, um, the other things I'm thinking about, Joan,
I wanted to just say, Beverly, before you say that, I think that is so that I love that idea that we need things that are gentle and deep. And the idea of yoga in the park, I want to be there. So when you get back on, definitely let us know where we can find out about that, if it's on the Betta Green Instagram or Facebook, or where people should go. But also this idea of you had talked before about seasons, and that you're in a maybe a different season or different part of your growth cycle where you did all this massive growth yourself, and now you've got all these like branches, and you're like, oh wait, I don't need to fuel all those other people can take this on. And that you're so modeling how we can proactively think about, how am I doing, and am I giving too much of myself to something that is no longer where I want to direct, or by me trying to control it, I'm limiting it. And so that's so exciting. I want to go to class with you.
well, consider yourself enrolled, my dear. And
Perfect.
you said it best. I will definitely be posting on Instagram and Facebook the schedule. As a matter of fact, this week I am working on securing permits for the parks and, uh, you know, creating a quote unquote schedule for this. I feel that I want to do a balance of, some things in the evening, like around 5 o'clock, to give people time to maybe stop working and meet up in a park. And also some midday things in places where we've got lots of shade, because there's lots of trees. You also made me think of a statement that a young person shared with me. Um, I'm currently a co teacher in a youth teacher training for yoga and Tai Chi. And one of the young people shared this statement with me when we were studying the heart chakra. Um, and the statement is, you can't tear yourself into pieces to support someone else's wholeness. And I share that statement every chance I get to plant that seed with people to remember about how we overdo things sometimes. We think it's in the name of good, but we've got to be mindful of the delicate balance of our beings because, yes, we work out and we're eating and doing things to strengthen ourselves, but we are still very fragile creatures. We're a delicate balance of many things. And, it's important that we are so intentional about our beings. And we have to realize that our health is our true wealth. It is not the coins that we push ourselves to accumulate um, for the exchanges that we have to make in our world. And to remember that our health is our greatest treasure. And without it, we know how much suffering comes to us when we have a break in our health. And no one loves to be sick or down. And so being mindful about what we need peace and quiet, we need healthy food, we also need some kind of activity that agrees with our being. And some of us require more vigorous activities, and some of us do not. And so it is up to us to lean into um, our divine designs, embrace that, and support it.
Amen, sister. And yeah, and I think especially right now, like we're still dealing with the pandemic. And I think so many people have had their routines and everything upended that we didn't even realize what all we were doing for our mental health until it was all gone. And so taking those extra steps to figure out what it is that is going to keep you feeling great. I know for me, I've been finding different places to volunteer. And yesterday I was out at Emerald Greens while they're harvesting mushrooms and growing microgreens. And it was just like amazing and mind blowing. And that we need to, right, not be busy, 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 and that we need to take that extra time for ourselves to build the resilience in ourselves, the resilience in our bodies, in our communities, and in our world, and our connections. Yeah, our connections to our ancestors, and to be able to access all that wisdom that they've got, that they're ready to share. I think if we're open to it. So, Beverly, is there any last thing that you would like to say? I put in the chat the links to the Betta Green Marketplace on Instagram and on Facebook. And so that's where you can find out, anybody can find out about the schedules for the farmers markets, for these upcoming yoga classes. And what else? What else should we tell people about? And then you're on KGNU Radio on the Metro Wednesday at 3 p.m. What else should we let people know as we're signing off here?
Wow, I think you've covered it, Joan. And I so appreciate it. And but I would want to say to each of you listening is remember to strengthen your resilience by taking time for yourself, every day, something small that nourishes your being. And when you are nourishing your being, you are strengthening your resilience. When you are building healthy relationships, you are strengthening your resilience. And so I just want to leave that thought with each of you, that each of you is resilient, you are grounded, and you are complete exactly as you are. And I thank you so much for this opportunity, Joan.
Thank you so much, Beverly. I just put in the chat there the link to our paint and sip. So that follows right on. If you want to do something fun for yourself on June 22nd, we have an artist from Hampton Sipping and Painting that's going to be helping us paint a picture of a bicycle with a basket full of flowers. So I'd love that idea of taking just at least a few minutes for yourself every day to proactively care for yourself. And thank you, Victoria from France, joining us, and with all of your wonderful comments and encouragement. Really appreciate that as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Beverly. I'm so happy that we had a chance to talk, and I can't wait to go to yoga in the park with you.
Thank you, Joan. And I can't wait to see you at Yoga in the Park or any other opportunity that I have to connect with you. And listeners, thank you for sharing this time with us. And please tune in to more of Joan Gregerson magic.
I love that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day. And remember, the time for action is now because there is no planet B. See you soon.